Hi, Chaitanya Choksi here. I'm a fund manager at JM Financial Mutual Fund, and I've been with JM since February of 2008. And here I'm the co-fund manager for the ELSS as well as the small cap schemes. I've done my MMS in finance, specializing in finance and from NMIMS, and I was always interested in the financial markets, the capital markets, and that's what attracted me to this field, and that's why I had taken up finance as my major when I was doing my MBA. And from campus, there were not many opportunities that there were to actually enter the equity market space. My first job, which was UTI Investment Advisory Services, where I got recruited from campus, that was an offshore fund managed by UTI, and that was sort of my stepping stone in my career. From campus I was recruited into that company, and I started off as a research analyst. And as a research analyst, we have to cover quite a few sectors, like say auto, FMCG, hotels, and from there I had subsequently I had joined ILNFS and Westmart in their portfolio management division. So there also I was working as a research analyst again across a few sectors. Subsequent to that, I joined a family office, which was a small family office managing funds for an NRI family. It was a London-based NRI group having investments across the globe, and they had started, investing their money into India. So I was there for a short stint, and I got an opportunity to work with Lotus Mutual Fund, which was a joint venture between Fullerton Fund Management, which is a unit of Temasek, as well as Sabre Capital Worldwide. So they had started off with their mutual fund venture, got an opportunity to work there as a research analyst, again across sectors. So I was there for a couple of years, and then in February of 2008, I joined JM Financial Mutual Fund, and since then I have been with JM. Initially, I started off as a research analyst in JM, and in 2011, I got the opportunity to manage the arbitrage fund. I started managing active equity funds from 2014 onwards. Now, 2014 to 24, over the last 10 years, I've had the opportunity to co-manage quite a few funds under the JM umbrella, and that is sort of briefly how my journey has been. So the correlation across so many variables and how it sort of impacts stocks, that is something I really like, and that's why I'm in this space for so long now. So the ELSS fund, which is the equity linked saving scheme, तो यहाँ पे जैसे आपको पता है कि as per the IT laws, there is a 3-year lock-in. With this lock-in, there is a tax deduction under section 80C. यहाँ पे 1.5 लाख का limit है in terms of the investment, that amount जो investor can invest into the scheme, and वो income में से deduct हो जाता है, and depending on आप कौन से स्लैब में हो, इनकम टैक्स स्लैब में, आपको इतना बेनिफिट मिलेगा. ये स्कीम का एक अच्छा जो पॉइंट है वो मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि सिंस 3 साल का लॉक इन है, इट गिव्स द अपॉर्चुनिटी टू द फंड मैनेजर. बिकॉज ऑफ दिस लॉक इन, जो फंड मैनेजर को फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी मिलती है इन टर्म्स ऑफ मैनेजिंग द स्कीम. इसमें आपको रिडेम्पशन का प्रेशर नहीं रहता है. सो टू दैट एक्सटेंट लॉन्गर टर्म कॉल ले सकते हैं जो फंड मैनेज करते हैं. हमारा जो ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड रहा है JM ELSS फंड में, आप पिछले 10 सालों का ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड देख लीजिए. हमने हमेशा लॉन्ग टर्म रिस्क एडजस्टेड और कंसिस्टेंट रिटर्न्स पे ध्यान दिया है, और आप हमारे रिटर्न्स इवन रोलिंग बेसिस पे भी देखेंगे तो वी हैव अ वेरी गुड ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड इन टर्म्स ऑफ आवर रिटर्न्स. सो it's been a good journey so far, and all the companies in our portfolios, what common characteristics that you would see is they are all well managed companies, high quality managements, and that's what we have sort of followed over these years, and आगे जाके भी हम इसे फॉलो करते रहेंगे. सो हमारा मानना ये है कि इंडिया इज़ अ ग्रोथ मार्केट. क्लियरली अगर इंडिया दुनिया में कहीं पे भी ग्रोथ है तो वो हमारे देश में है. सो एज अ फंड हाउस भी वी आर ग्रोथ ओरिएंटेड फंड हाउस. हमारा फिलोसफी कॉल्ड गीक फिलोसफी, which is growth of earnings and earnings quality. So that is something what we follow at a fund house level, and that is the process that we have. So we run filters on both these parameters. For example, under growth of earnings, some of the metrics that we see are what is the earnings growth potential of the company and what is the earnings growth outlook. At the same time, what is the valuation that we are paying for that growth? So, that is on the growth side. On the earnings quality side, we feel that even if companies grow at a very good rate, but if their balance sheets are not aligned to that growth and they have to, sort of take over more debt, or a lot of their cash flows are going into capex or funding their working capital. Ideally we like companies which are high free cash generating, so that they can invest for their growth by themselves and not having to borrow for that growth. So parameters like operating cash flow to EBITDA of say 65%, our return on equity and return on capital employed, those are the two most important metrics that we follow, and we try and have companies which have ROE of more than 15%. So a lot of these parameters, as a team, we do this exercise initially on the BSE 500, which is our benchmark for most of our schemes, and then that process follows. So we run filters on all of these parameters. Additionally, one of the most important parameter for us as a fund house is that management quality. तो ये particular factor पे हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान देते हैं कि जो कंपनी का मैनेजमेंट हो, उनका कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस हो और उनका जो ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड रहा है इतने सालों में, वी ट्राई टू एंश्योर दैट पोर्टफोलियो में जो भी कंपनीज है वहाँ पे कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड में दे हैव अ वेरी गुड स्कोर, हाई स्कोर ऑन दैट फ्रंट. सो इन ब्रीफली दिस इज हाउ आई वुड पुट आवर इन्वेस्टमेंट फिलोसफी. सो मार्केट्स में आप सबको पता है कि लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स स्पेशली कोविड के बाद वी हैड अ वेरी गुड रन इन आवर मार्केट्स. देयर हैव बीन अ लॉट ऑफ फैक्टर्स व्हिच हैव ड्रिवन दिस आउट परफॉर्मेंस. आपको याद होगा कोविड के टाइम अर्निंग्स काफी डिप्रेस हो गई थी, एंड पोस्ट दैट जब ओपन अप ट्रेड आया एंड सिंस देन अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स हैव वर्कड वेल फॉर द कंट्री एंड द इकोनॉमी. एडिशनली आपको याद होगा कि आफ्टर द रेट हाइक साइकिल इन द यूएस एज वेल एज इन इंडिया, the way India managed our economy was much better than our global counterparts. Why we feel that Indian markets have done well and will continue to do well is because, one, the government stability is one big factor, and the continuity of policy reforms by the current government, the way the fiscal and the monetary side of the economy has been managed. Some of the other factors which have helped us is things like, say, UPI and the whole digital payments infrastructure, the policy in terms of GST, which was a very big reform for our country. तो ये सभी जो reforms हुए हैं इतने सालों में, और वो जो रिफॉर्म्स का जो पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट और जो बेनिफिट है वो हमें दिख रहा है हमारे कॉर्पोरेट अर्निंग्स में, हमारे देश की ग्रोथ में, और आगे जाके भी हमारा मानना है कि दिस विल कंटिन्यू टू benefit the economy in terms of our overall growth as well as corporate earnings. So slightly longer term अगर मुझे आपको व्यू देना है तो I am very bullish on the economy, and I feel that there is still a long runway of growth. But in the short term, we've had a very good rally over the last 3 years, and valuations जो है वो हमारे थोड़े long term averages के ऊपर चल रहे हैं. So there will be some period of consolidation. Now again, a lot of things are happening globally on the geopolitical front. Even we had the US elections, just happened last week. The results came out, and there can be some volatility related to that in terms of, say, global trade, global flows, interest rates. But that is all short term. So in terms of sectors, there are a few which, some of the themes I spoke about earlier, which, there are a lot of companies which benefit from these themes. Like, say, in the markets, post-COVID, you have seen a surge of retail money coming in, right? Lot of, even the mutual fund numbers आप देख रहे हैं, month on month, जो SIP का proportion है वो बढ़ते जा रहा है. In fact, last month का SIP numbers monthly has crossed 25,000 crores. तो ये जो retail participation in the markets है, ये जो equity, sort of ownership, that is something we feel that will continue to grow. So ये जो फाइनेंशियलाइजेशन ऑफ सेविंग्स है एंड द फॉर्मलाइजेशन ऑफ द इकोनॉमी because of GST and a lot of other factors, policy changes, we feel that there are a lot of companies which will benefit from this, and also things like, say, Make in India, manufacturing more and more getting outsourced to India. Even MNC companies are talking more and more on that front. And all sectors where there is import substitution, where government policy is favoring those sectors, that is something which we are very positive on. लिमिटेशंस की बात करें, सो इन द ELSS कैटेगरी, जैसे जो एक तरफ से अपॉर्चुनिटी है, इट इज़ अ ऑन दी अदर हैंड इट इज़ अ लिमिटेशन ऑल्सो कि यहाँ पे जो 3 साल का जो लॉक इन है इन्वेस्टर के पर्सपेक्टिव से, कि आपने एक बार इन्वेस्ट कर दिया तो आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट 3 साल के लिए लॉक्ड इन है, तो उसके बाद आपको लिक्विडिटी नहीं मिलेगी ये स्कीम में. So that is one limitation if you think of it from a investor perspective. The second limitation is that जो tax changes हो रहे हमारे country में, the old tax regime, the government is trying to move people to the new tax regime, जहाँ पे all these deductions may are not available under the new regime. So for the category एक limitation आगे जाके ये हो सकता है कि eventually at some point the government moves completely to the new tax regime, and all these deductions which an investor get under, say, section 80C for ELSS, they may no longer be available after a period of time. So that is something an investor needs to watch out for. But we feel that the government will give adequate sort of notice to taxpayers, before they make the transition. So those are the two things which I feel are limitations, if you can call them as limitations. Yeah.
Investments in the securities market are subject to market risk. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.